Hi, family. I'm Charlene. I'm a grateful alcoholic. And we're going to start it out like this. God, I got the mouth. You got the words. So, my sobriety date is July 27th, 2003. And I'm as grateful as I know how to be for that. I'm so honored that my sponsor, Mama Jackie, came today. It's always a blessing. So I guess that means I got to really tell you the truth, huh? Let's see. So this is for Jill. I was born in 1980. She hates when people start like that. So that was for her. Just putting her on blast. That's okay. I love you. I'm really, really honored to be here today, and it's a lot easier to go across town in front of people you don't know and spill your truth, and so it's a little bit more anxiety-producing to do that in front of 100 of your closest peeps. So bear with me, and I was born an alcoholic. That's what I believe. My body reacts abnormally to alcohol. I don't think that any of the trauma, the drama, or any of those things that happened made me an alcoholic. I think that's just the way I'm cut. And I said all that to say that, there are a lot of things that, we go through in life that create different ways of reacting and responding that affect our relationships, that permeate into all the decisions that we make, that affect all these other things. And I think it kind of all weaves together as all part of the whole. But I don't think any of those things made me an alcoholic. I don't think that my mother's issues made me an alcoholic. I don't think that any of those other things did. So I have a perception problem. The way that I respond and react to the world is different. Well, I don't know how it is for you. I just know that for me, it can cause me some problems. I have a thinking problem. When I was born, my mom had this really horrible postpartum depression. She had this really bad, hormonal imbalance that created a lot of mental problems for her. And she also was an alcoholic. She didn't start acting on her alcoholism until after I was born. And one time she had kidnapped me to take me across the country to somewhere else so that we could get away. And I remember her telling a bartender that 1980 was the worst year of her life. That didn't make me an alcoholic. But what I heard her say is that I screwed everything up. I was the problem. I caused all her sickness. I caused all her pain. I caused my father's pain. I caused my brother's pain. And that it was all my fault. Now, of course, I was a little kid, I don't know, I was maybe 5 or 6, but I didn't realize until about 2016 that I carried that message with me my whole life. So these things that happen, events that happen, the interactions we have in relationships, it's I take on messages and I take on different scenarios, and I have stories going in my head about what's reality and the way the world is. And that can really have a big impact on my relationships with others, my relationship with myself, and my relationship with my higher power. So anyway, another couple of messages that I heard from her, I don't think it's what she was trying to necessarily send me, but I heard that I wasn't safe, people were out to get me, especially the people that were supposed to protect me the most. Other things along those lines. And so I can see looking back how that just really permeated everything throughout my life. Being a fear-based individual, what I learned from my loving sponsor during my 5th step, that I was full of self-centered fear and that was okay. I created this kind of exterior of, as Rick now knows, a big, bad, tough bitch, because if I can do that, then you can't hurt me, and you'll stay 50 feet away, and I can just keep that cushion, and everything's going to be okay. And I learned that pretty early on. I don't think I did that on purpose. I think it was just like this natural thing that I developed as kind of like a security system to protect myself. And there's a lot of these things I didn't realize were going on during that time. Let's see. When I was about 6 or so, my mom was gone. I had to come back after she took me. Anyway, all of that. So it was me, my dad, and my 2 brothers. And they pretty much raised me. My brothers took care of me. They were always there for me. They're on the other side now, whatever that is. And I miss them dearly. But anyway, my dad was like the solid rock, you know. He was the provider. He made sure that we had everything we needed. He took care of everything. And in part of his process of his life, you know, he really wasn't showing up emotionally. So the emotions in our house were angry or nothing. Angry or ignore. The messages that I'm seeing and that I'm heard are like big deal to me today. You know, I don't think we always realize these things going on as we're growing up and going through life. Going on to school, a big piece of what I did to kind of overcompensate for these feelings was being like an overachiever. You know, I did a whole lot of extra everything because if I could be good at all these things and do all these things and be good enough, then maybe my dad would like me and love me and not leave like my mom did, right? So these are like just the simple ways that I guess the brain just was wired from trying to deal with these different things as a kid, none of which made me an alcoholic, in my opinion. Started drinking alcoholically at 12, and we found a pack of cigarettes on the street on Cypresswood Drive. And, you know, we thought we were just tough, and we were going to smoke those cigarettes, and we were going to drink that Strawberry Boone Farm. And about all that I remember from that was, you know, getting pretty sick and awkwardly wanting to do it again. I wasn't, you know, looking back, it's like, what normal person is going to react this way, you know? Started getting into other things in high school, and I kind of left this out. I grew up Catholic, and I'm only saying this because, you know, if you're Catholic, I'm not knocking Catholicism. This is just my experience. So this is how it landed on me. Sit, kneel, stand, kneel, sit, recite this, say this prayer. Oh, you're in trouble? You got to go pray with this guy over here in that little room. You know, prayer was a punishment. I didn't understand. I didn't understand God. I didn't understand having a personal relationship with God. I just knew that I had to do these things or I was going to be in big trouble. And if I got in big trouble, then I was going to hell anyway. So, you know, that was just the way that my brain understood it all. And it wasn't until later on when I got to college, I met an atheist. And I was like, whoa, what if there's not a God? And I don't know, that was kind of mind-blowing to me. But going on in high school, you know, all the different side dishes that happened there. When I went off to college, I kind of got messed up with some people that I probably shouldn't have been tangled up with and got myself into some snags. And it was really at that time that I really realized I was an alcoholic. Because genius that I was, I went to school in a dry county. Not sure why I decided to do that. But it was a 30-minute drive to the beer store. And you can only bring 2 cases across the county line, otherwise it was bootlegging. So, you know, it's a problem when you've put away a case of beer, you gave away a bunch of beer, and you need more, and you got to drive 30 minutes. I remember coming home for it was like a Thanksgiving break or something like that, and I was driving my little red car, and thinking to myself, man, I got a drinking problem. I gotta do something about this. And so I decided to stop drinking, but what I decided to do instead was just use substitutes, you know, narcotics and other things like that. And as long as I wasn't drinking, I was okay. And that didn't last very long. But I don't want to get too much in the mess, but the way that I know I'm an alcoholic is that when I drink, I can't stop. And when I try to stop, it was very difficult to do. And by those two things, encompassing the phenomenon of craving, the physical allergy, and the mental obsession, exactly how the book defines it. You know, there's no doubt that I'm an alcoholic. And I could look at all these layers of all these other things that I did to try to change the way that I felt and look for loopholes, look for ways that I'm not an alcoholic, look for all the things that I could do to argue that you guys are wrong and I'm not really one of you. But none of that would do me any good. When I finally made it to, I don't know if I've qualified enough. I don't know. I remember just drinking, like, you know, ordering 2 drinks at a time because I was too impatient to wait for the waitress to come back with another margarita. You know, things like that. And I see sometimes at the Mexican restaurant, I'll see somebody order 2 margaritas, and I'm like, I got your number. You know, like, I know exactly what's going on at that table. Anyway, I also can say that for most of my life, and I don't know if is it learned behavior to be angry all the time, or to have like this, like, as I've been recently told, edgy? Is that a learned behavior? Is that a barometer of my spiritual condition? Is that I'm another bozo on the bus trying to deal with life on life's terms? I don't know if that makes me an alcoholic, but I know that I got it. I know that a lot of us deal with a lot of different things, and we're just trying to do the best we can. You know, I was really rigid in this program for a long time, a lot of years, very particular, very militant, very just, you know, like I would beat you over the head with the big book if you would just understand. And I've learned to loosen up a bit because we're all just trying to do the best we can, you know? Got to have a little compassion for my fellow human. There's been a lot of things. But anyway, I feel like I'm kind of hopping all over the place. So I'll get over to, I guess, right before the beginning. Right? Right before the beginning of being rocketed into this 4th dimension. Awesome theme, by the way. Y'all did a great job. This is amazing. I know it's a lot of hard work putting an event together. So kudos to y'all. Yellow shirt people. That's what we'll call you, the yellow shirt people. Y'all have so much love for this group, and it is well received. Anyway, so before the beginning, I just remember getting to a place where, you know, I was a functional alcoholic until I wasn't. You know, I could hold it all together until I couldn't. And there were so many years of just living a dual life, you know, being that daddy's little angel, perfect little girl who couldn't do anything wrong, to just complete obliteration, just annihilating everything, being just gone. And living a lie like that is exhausting. And I believed it. You know, I believed all of it. When I got near the end, I just remember getting to a place where I wasn't functioning. I wasn't showing up where I needed to show up. I was living out of my car. I had a little red car. My side mirror was taped on with masking tape, and a crackhead had busted out my back window trying to steal my shoes. And that's how I roll. I'll let you fill in the details in your mind of what that was like. But I just remember, you know, that last week, I hadn't bathed in probably a week. My hair was falling out. I had sores on my body. You couldn't give me enough alcohol or other substances to make anything right, to make anything whole, to make anything okay. I couldn't go on with it. I couldn't go on without it. And it was the most awkward place that I ever experienced. I remember walking down the street in the heat of July of 2003 and just like screaming in my head, am I just freaking crazy? Am I just freaking crazy? It was just this total battleground where I was in this space of not understanding what was happening, not wanting to go on, and also having this glimmer inside of me that knew, like this innate fire that, like, I want something different. I don't want to die. I had gotten in trouble for doing some things that I shouldn't have been doing, and so Harris County got involved, and, I kind of manipulated my way through that for a while, like, oh, well, if I just tell you that, or if I get a letter from my doctor that says I need to go to 2 AA meetings a week, and if I do that and get this paper signed, because I had known of AA, my mom had went to AA, she eventually got sober, and, I was like, well, will that be okay? Like, I was trying to keep myself out of jail, because I was way too chicken for that, and so they were like, yeah, my probation officer was like, okay, and so, of course, I jumped through the hoops and get the papers, and, of course, I didn't want to go to any meetings. I was just trying to find another way out. I ended up finally getting up the courage to go to a meeting over at the Champions Club, and I parked right there in the front, and I was smoking a blunt and drinking a 40 in the parking lot, and the smoke's rolling out of my car, and I walk in there thinking nobody knows. They all knew, and they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm here to get my paper signed. They're like, oh, okay. You just come sit down over here and listen. And the only thing that I remember from that meeting was them saying, please, just please come back. And I remember thinking to myself, in my twisted thinking, perception problem, remember? Well, what do they need me so bad for? Like, literally, I did not get it. And, I had no intentions of being sober at that time. The next 3 months were 3 months from hell, and I finally got to that place, that jumping off place, where it was like I couldn't go on without it, I couldn't go on with it, and anyway, so I finally called my brother, and I was trying to have this one last ditch effort, because I knew I had to go see my PO the next week, and I knew I couldn't fail another UA. And I knew I was too chicken to get locked up. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go out with a bang this weekend, and then I'll go to rehab. And so I called my brother because I wanted to borrow the stereo equipment that I had given him, and because I wanted to go out with a bang, and I didn't have any money, and so, I needed to figure out a way to do what I needed to do. And he took one look at me, and he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I remember feeling like just walking dead, just soulless. That's how I felt. And he took me in. He wouldn't let me leave. And, I ended up kind of sleeping it off. And he made me eat something and all those things. And I called my dad. And for the first time, I said, I need help. I had been spinning my wheels trying to figure out what concoction of these things and alcohol and this and that, what's the right formula? How can I make this happen? How can I be a functional alcoholic and do what I need to do and get what I need to get so that I can be at peace? And I could not figure that out. One of my spiritual advisors in the program taught me a long time ago, nowhere in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous does it say, figure it out. But I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels trying to figure it out. I ended up, my dad called the employee assistance program or whatever. Anyway, I ended up at Kingwood Health Center, which I think is now Kingwood Pines. And I just remember this feeling going in there, like just this complete relief. They take your picture when you get in there so they can put it in your chart. And I was smiling in mine. And, that sounds kind of twisted, but, I can look back and see there was just this utter sense of relief because I was just, like, floundering, walking dead, just trying to figure out a way forward, and that was just completely exhausting. They put me in the psychiatric unit because that's where I needed to be, and, I got stabilized or whatever, and then I went over to the chemical dependency unit, and, that's where they started teaching me all these things, and we started going to the AA meetings that they had there at the place. So for any of you that go and do service and take meetings to facilities, thank you. Thank you. Some of us stick. And there were a lot of people from the Old Town Spring group that went over there at the time and would take meetings. And there was this one guy who he's since passed. His name was John, and he would always have this walking stick with him. And he would carry this bag of round tuits. It's like a little round chip, and it said "Tuit." And it's like, well, you can't say you got a round to it, you already got one. Or you get around to it, you know. And then they would hand out things like bobbers. Like, I don't know, all these weird things. But I guess it somehow magically worked. There was this, I was in there, it was like on the 7th day that I was in the hospital. And, I had been listening to what they were saying of like, well, even if you don't know what you're praying to or you don't believe, just pray anyway. Just pray anyway. And here's this blue book. You need to read this. And I remember just like I skipped right over the doctor's opinion. Who needs that? And I was just like reading it like a novel, and nothing was sticking. But I just remember they kept saying about this higher power. Just pray. And so I was sitting there in the bed reading this thing like a novel, and I just remember saying, God, if you're really real, and this is really what I'm supposed to be doing, and I just need you to show me. I was willing. I had a moment of willingness. And I laid there and I read that book, and all of a sudden I had this experience that I can't really put into accurate words to describe. The sensation in my body that I felt high, and there was this button on the wall, like the nurse call button, and I was like, something is seriously wrong here. I need to push this button. And I had this moment of like, oh, I just asked this thing to show me, to give me a slap in the face, if this is really real and this is really what I need to be doing, as if I really needed to be doing something other than what I was doing before I got there. But anyway, I needed some sort of proof. And the next day when I went down to get my meds at the nurse's station, the lady looked at me and she's like, what happened to you? You look different. And I was like, I don't know. And then I went out to the smoke hut. What happened to you? You look different. And it was about like 3 or 4 people that said this to me. And it finally hit me. There was an AA meeting there later that day. It was a Sunday. And I went down there and I shared about it. And my friend who was deep in alcoholism came. And she was coming to support me at the meeting. And I shared about what had happened. And was there a big book around here somewhere? Oh.
There we go. Oh, there we are.
I mean, we are at AA. I shared about it, and this man who was from the spring group, I don't remember his name, he's like, turn to page 56. And so I opened the book, and it says, one night when confined in a hospital, he was approached by an alcoholic who had known a spiritual experience. Our friend's gorge rose as he bitterly cried out, well, if there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me. But later, alone in his room, he asked himself this question. Is it possible that all the religious people I've known are wrong? While pondering the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. Then like a thunderbolt, the great thought came. It crowded out all else. Who are you to say there is no God? This man recounts that he tumbled out of bed to his knees. In a few seconds, he was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of God. It poured over and through him with the certainty and majesty of a great tide at flood. The barriers he had built through the years were swept away. He stood in the presence of infinite power and love. He had stepped from bridge to shore. It's from the bridge of reason to the shore of faith. For anybody who's new to the program, check out We Agnostics. Saved my life. For the first time, he lived in conscious companionship with his Creator. Thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. No later vicissitude has shaken it. His alcoholic problem was taken away that very night years ago. It disappeared. Save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink has never returned. And at such times, a great revulsion has risen up in him. Seemingly, he could not drink even if he would. God had restored his sanity. What? What is this but a miracle of healing? Yet its elements are simple. Circumstances made him willing to believe. He humbly offered himself to his Maker. Then he knew. Even so, as God restored us all to our right minds. To this man, the revelation was sudden. Some of us grow into it more slowly, but he has come to all who have honestly sought him. When we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. And my life has never been the same since that day. I don't think that we just come in here and get struck sober and, then poof, everything's magically grand and we can just carry on and happy, joyous, and free. I think there's some to that magic pixie dust that I can't put a formula or an equation to. I can't tell you exactly how it works. I can't tell you why it works or any of those intellectual things that my mind wants to wrap around to make this make sense for me. It's like, there's footwork I got to do. You guys taught me what I got to do, the steps I got to take, the things I need to do on a daily basis. And then there's this higher power that takes care of all the rest. And the biggest component was asking for help. Being able to be honest and ask for help. My way was not working. Whenever I got out of that place, that Kingwood Health Center, I ended up over at the Next Step for Women, and I was there for about 3 or 4 months, and they had a 3-quarter house, and I was there for about 3 or 4 months, and I had this temporary sponsor that I met at the rehab place, and she had 14 years sober, and her husband died, and she didn't drink, and I was like, damn, if she can do that, I want what she has. And so she agreed to be my temporary sponsor, and that didn't last very long. I remember getting to the middle of my 4-step in her living room and making this list of 121 people, places, and institutions who pissed me off royally. And she's like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. You're going to do that? Are you going to make me make this list of 121 people, places, and institutions with whom I am fuming and send me back to the halfway house? I almost did not make it back. I remember getting back over there, and the tech's name was Terry, and I said, Terry, I got to go. I just needed to go. And she did not let me leave that whole weekend. And I'm very, very grateful for that. She's since gone to the sky, too. There's so many people that we meet along this path. And love you, too. You just never know what kind of impact you're going to have on somebody. Just taking that 5 minutes to give a shit. Taking that 5 minutes to have some compassion. To give somebody a smile. To talk to them. To listen. Anyway, so this lady would bring these big book studies over there. And I think they were on Thursdays. Maybe. And that's where I met my now sponsor. She's been my sponsor ever since. I asked her about 5 times to sponsor me. She kept telling me no. I was pissed. And she's like, we need to go over there to the Spring Branch Memorial Club and ask one of those women over there. So I did that. They don't call back. I went back and I said, Jackie, I did what you said. I called so-and-so. I had to put her on my 4-step, but it's okay. I called so-and-so. And anyway, so Jackie's like, all right, call me in 24 hours. That was her little test, right? Are you really willing? Are you really going to do this? Okay, I called her in 24 hours. She thought it was a half measure for me to ask her, or for her to be my sponsor, because she was bringing a big book study to the halfway house I was living in. And I can respect that. But I didn't respect that at the time. Anyway, so we kind of started over on that 4-step. And my counselor required me to do anger management before I continued on with the 4-step. And I had no idea that I was so angry. I just didn't understand. I mean, but looking back, like, what else would make sense? That's the entire environment that I grew up in. And it wasn't like an angry, like mean angry. It was an angry, like, hurt angry. You know, all of these hurts that we pile in all over through the life. And it's like, I don't want to show you I'm vulnerable. I don't want to show you I'm sad. I don't want to show you my feelings are hurt. So what do I show you? Because if I do that, then you can't create any more of those things in my life. So anyway, we did that 5th step, and I just remember I felt so sick afterwards. I just felt like I was going to throw up. And I heard all these people talk about this amazing experience that they had with their fifth step. I did not feel that. I did feel that I was safe. Thank you for creating that space for me. I did feel that my sponsor was not being judgmental of me. I did feel that I could tell her all the stuff and that it was going to be okay. But I had so much toxic baggage inside of me that I just felt so sick. We proceeded on with the steps, and I was dating this guy, and it was not a good situation. And anyway, that was a whole 6-year ordeal. You know, when they tell you to wait, like don't get in a relationship for a year, like there's a reason for that, you know? Give yourself a chance to figure out who you are and what you're really about, you know? I lived such a lie for so long that, I mean, how could I really get into a true partnership with another human being? Anyway, what time is it? This feels really awkward for me today. I don't know what the deal is, but I just feel very awkward up here right now. So let's talk about living life on life's terms. That's probably the hardest thing we got to do. Once you put the plug in the jug, you know, then what? You know, try to get some healing in your life, get a sense of peace, get a sense of serenity. But then, like, life happens, you know? Messed up relationships, abusive people in the world, people die, people get sick. You know, it's like we just feel all this stuff to the 20th degree, I think, from like normies. You know, like maybe they feel it and they still go through all this stuff, but I feel like for us it's just like exponential. You know, like everything is exaggerated and extra, and like we just feel really hard. We love really hard. We're very passionate people and all of these things. And so we just got to give ourselves a little bit of care when trying to deal with these life on life's terms. I remember after getting out of that messed up relationship, I was sitting around my home group on a Friday night, and there was this guy that I'd known for a few years, and he had gone through something. His wife committed suicide and all this stuff, and we were just bozos on the bus, just trying to do the best we could. And we were sitting around before the Friday night meeting complaining about relationships and recovery, and when were we ever going to find somebody that we could have somewhat of a semi-normal relationship? And anyway, a couple months later, we were engaged, and you know how that goes. So, that was about 11 and a half years ago, and we're still standing. We haven't killed each other yet. But during that time, what I've found, I keep hearing people share about this, 5 to 10 year period, and trying to get through life, and how do you get to the other side of the room on birthday night, and life happens. And I think it's so important for us to be plugged in. There was this weird guy, he called himself the $1 Million Plumber. Some of you know him. Anyway, he did this whole visual at this meeting at my old home group, and he had this pack of Newports, and he took this one cigarette out, and he's put it on top of the pack, and he's like, if you're not in the middle of AA and the wind blows, you're going to just fall off. And then he's like, if you're inside the herd, and he threw the damn thing, and he's like, you're going to be fine. And it's weird, these little things that just can stick with you and be like, oh, that was stupid, but I get it. And, there are all kinds of little things like that really stuck with me. And, getting in the middle, even just moving across town can be just a horrific experience for one of us. I know trying to get recentered into a home group and to get, reintegrated in the middle of the program. We moved from inside the loop to Spring, and we started going over to the West Spring group and spent a lot of time over there. And we had come from a place where we were super involved at our old home group, and uber way too involved. And I don't say that in a negative way. I just mean sometimes we have to find a balance, I I can do things alcoholically all the time. I can sponsor people alcoholically. I can do service work alcoholically. I can work alcoholically. There's a lot of things that I can do without any balance in my life. And I'm continuing to learn that I do not have all the answers, and that I need to bring it down a notch and take some time. I always want to do. And I think a lot of times that's a way for me to avoid having to go deal with what's really going on with me. So, death. Death is hard. We've had to deal with a lot of different deaths over the last 10 years or so. And both of those brothers that took such good care of me, they both passed away. Jeff's mom passed away. Jeff's grandma passed away. Jeff's dad passed away. My mom passed away. It was like a whole series of deaths, like back to back to back to back to back. And one of the things I can say is that, like, if I don't deal with what's eating my lunch, like, eventually it's going to come out. And learning how to deal with this life on life's terms business is crucial. Letting myself open up to you and let you get to know me and let me get to know you is crucial. It seems so simple, but it can be extraordinarily difficult. And so if anyone in here is feeling like you're not in the middle, or you're not part of the herd, or, oh, those people over there are talking about me, they're not. They're probably talking about themselves. I mean, let's be honest. Like, get over yourself and go say hello. You know, I mean, it's do or die. You know, when they told me when I got here that I was here to save my arse, not my face. And so I got to suit up and show up and do what I need to do on a daily basis to make sure that I keep the plug in the jug. And y'all help me to do that. I would have to say that there's so much healing available to us in this program. My mom that was so troubled, like after I was born, she ended up moving in with us for about 11 months before she died. And that was all my husband's fault, I will tell you that, because I did not want this to happen. I was angry. I was pissed. Still, you know, I thought I had dealt with it. I'd gone through all these like layers of peeling the onion, and why is this still here? Why does this keep coming up? And Patsy, God rest her soul, was my Al-Anon sponsor, and she told me, well, baby, how can we reframe this? I said, I don't know, Patsy. I don't want to hear it. She's like, well, your little girl's getting what she always wanted. Ooh, I didn't want to accept her admit that. And so anyway, Mom came to stay with us, and her cancer came back, and she ended up getting real sick. And somehow, some way, you all in this program taught me to treat her like another bozo on the bus. Just another woman in the program, trying to do the best that she can. Have a little compassion. You know, I was sitting here last night in the meeting, and Daniel's over here with this little girl, and I'm just watching them, and I'm like, man, he is being so gentle and gracious with her, letting her drop her little goldfish on the floor, not getting mad about it, just picking them up and helping to guide her to the next place. And I was like, wow, you know, that must be kind of like what God does, you know? Daniel, don't go get in a God complex wherever you are. But it was just very touching to me, because I'm like, wow, there's this little person just 100% dependent. 100% dependent. And then she's thinking about getting in trouble. She's thinking about doing stuff she probably shouldn't do. And then she'd look at me across the room and she'd go, hee hee, you know. And I'm like, that's exactly like what we do. That's exactly like what I do. And I'm like, wow, you know. Anyway, I'll circle back to my mom. Mom made me think of Daniel. She had, right after her first chemo treatment, she had come home and she got really sick, and Jeff and I were sitting downstairs, and we heard this big thud upstairs. and a Yelp. So we go upstairs. Well, I went upstairs, and Mom had fallen. You know, she was supposed to be on the oxygen. She was hypoxic, all this stuff, and she had fallen, and I was trying to help her up, and I was like, just, Mom, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Like, over and over, what do you need? And she just looked up at me, and she just said, I need forgiveness. Wow. I was really angry for a long time. You know, and sometimes I think we don't realize how much our stubbornness and our ego can get in the way of connection. And how hurtful that can be. Just because I'm hurting doesn't mean that I have to hurt you.
That's right.
And I can look back and see that I did the best that I could with the information I had, to the point of work I had done at that time. And I had said, oh, Mom, you know, it's water under the bridge. Don't worry about it. Let's just forge on. Forge on. That's what I do. I forge on, you know. And she just needed to hear those words. I forgive you. I forgive you. And I didn't realize how pivotal that moment would be in my life. You know, ever since I got here, I've always believed that part of the message I was supposed to carry, and I know I shared this last week, so get over it if you already heard it. But like, to the parents who screwed up in your alcoholism, like, the kid still loves you. And like, it's okay. We pick up the pieces and we do the best we can today to move forward. Now, I can say that. I'm not a mom, right? It's a lot easier for me to say that. But I can tell you from the kid's perspective, you know, no matter how broken or imperfect we may be, you know, there's still forgiveness. And I also didn't realize at that moment how much of that, when I said that to her, I said, I forgive you, Mom. And she looked at me, she said, I may need to hear that again sometime. I'm like, whoa. But what I didn't realize until after she died a week later was that was her forgiving me too. And, you know, it's these moments that we can either get all twisted up and get caught up in the emotion and start, like, being damaging in our lives and things like that. Or we can take it, get into acceptance, and take the lesson and move forward. You know? I don't like all these people dying. And I don't like that these other people are going to die. And it's going to hurt. So, like, what are you doing today to show up for the people in your life? You know, what message are you carrying to them today? I've been really struggling lately with my edginess, wearing my feelings on my sleeve. I will say that. And so I'm acutely aware that some of my actions may not send that message. And that really is heartbreaking for me. But I also know on the flip side of that, I'm another bozo on the bus trying to do the best I can. And we've all got stuff. We've all got life. We've all got drama. We've all got all the things. But how are you showing up? Like, how are you showing up for the people in your life that you love? Y'all show up for me every time I come up here. You guys show up for me, and you give me hope, and you give me strength, and you give me compassion, and you let me be where I'm at. So I'm going to try to do the same. I don't really know what else to say, other than I'm extraordinarily grateful to be here. And I just don't ever want to forget where I was, but how important it is for us to show up for each other. There were times when these people were dying, and I was so pissed because nobody was calling me. Nobody was showing up for me. But guess what? I was hiding in a hole. I created that. I was avoiding y'all. And I didn't, I've gone through these ups and downs in sobriety. It's just part of the deal. Well, it's been part of my experience. I don't know that it happens for everybody, but it sure happens for me. And the more, I thrive in consistency and structure, even though in my mind I'm like, oh, screw that. I don't want your structure. I'm a free bird. I want to do whatever I want. But the more that I can create that in my life by showing up and doing what you guys tell me to do and being consistent and letting you show up for me, the better chance I have of making it in the rough, low spots ahead. And that's for sure. That's for sure. So anyway, I'm feeling a bit out of words, and I appreciate you guys coming, and I'm sorry that Karen wasn't here, but Nancy, Karen, whatever, Karen.
What are you looking for? They're underneath there. What are you looking for?